I'm excited to jump into today's episode. This is a continuation of my special guest series where I bring on real business owners who have real questions so that we can walk through and you can kind of get some answers for yourself. Sometimes this is the nice way to learn when we can do it through a conversation where it's actual problems or actual issues or just need some clarity. So I hope that you enjoy these special episodes. I have certainly been enjoying being able to converse and really help out other businesses so that they can get clarity and move on and get back to doing their business. And so today we have Cindy, and Cindy is a business educator empowering entrepreneurs by teaching effective advertising strategies and guiding them through setting up a successful market booth. So if you run into the market circuit, you love attending them and participating, this is going to be a really good one for you. Additionally, she offers customized marketing products to promote businesses at events, markets, and shows to help them stand out and succeed. So I'm excited to jump in. So without further ado, let's bring Cindy in. Hey, I'm Angela Doyon, and this is the Creative Marketing Show, the podcast for ambitious women in business looking to cut the BS, stop dancing for likes, and learn to create honest and genuine marketing strategies that don't cause burnout and overwhelm. Think of me as one of your friends that's here to support you and cheer you on while keeping you up to date with all the latest marketing trends and inspired actions you can start to implement into your business. Let's dive into a new episode. Well, hello, Cindy. I'm so happy that we get to chat.
Yes, me too.
I know you have a lot going on and it's exciting. And I know you've been making a lot of changes as well. But before we jump in, I've already kind of relayed to our audience that this is learning through conversation. You are a real business owner, and I'm sure that a lot of what we'll talk about can resonate with other business owners. But before we do that, if you want to just introduce yourself in your own words, and then we can just jump right in.
Okay, sounds good. So I am a mom of three. I am a business owner, as you said. I have been a business owner with my husband. We co-own a painting company, and we've owned that for about 28 years.
Wow.
And and then I have a huge background of managing retail, I guess you can say. And I thought it was time I wanted to try this on my own. So I have been just over 2 years my own self-business owner, and I love it. It's I guess you can say in my late 40s now. I wish I had done this years ago. It's great.
Interesting. And
Yeah.
so can you share in your words, like, what is it that you love what you do, and like, what is it that you offer? Because I know you're a little twofold
So
right now. This is a big transition too, as well, right?
yes, I am in transition mode right now. When I started in creative mode, I guess you could say for myself. I started as creating product. So I was doing product for other people. I was doing t-shirts and mugs, and I really, I guess you can say right now, I've learned that just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it. I was very much in the
Preach.
mindset that, right?
Oh yeah, I'm sure
So
that resonates with and lands with a lot of
yes,
people.
yes, I was like, oh my gosh, that's gorgeous. And I do have a creative mindset, and I was like, oh, I can do that. So if that's one thing I could tell people, it's like, just because you can doesn't mean you should. That's a big lesson I learned. Don't jump in like thinking you can knock off everything, and I don't mean like copy everything that everybody's doing. I just mean that you can do it all. At first, I thought it was like, don't, like, I didn't have to have a niche, but I was like that mindset. And you do have to find a niche, and you do have to find something that you should stick to. And so yeah, I did it all. I did the mugs, I did the t-shirts, I did the keychains. I thought I would just do everything vinyl, anything that vinyl could go on.
Yeah.
That's what I did. And I burnt myself out.
Right.
I burnt myself out. I was like, I still loved it. I still loved what I was doing, but I still felt like I was missing something.
Right. So
if
where
that made sense.
have you niched down? Have you narrowed in on,
Yes.
so what is that? What does that look like?
So what it looks like to me, and I'm happier now. Like I can't even put it into words. Like I'm more excited and more happy and just like I'm like I can hardly sleep at night. I'm just like bursting. Is I'm going back to what I used to love when I was a manager and assistant manager and running the stores and retail. Is I'm going back to wanting to teach people and wanting to train people. And so I'm changing the name of FMTY, which is huge. It's that's scary, but it's I really am aligned to what I'm changing it to. And I'm going to be um, I met this girl, I guess you through a workshop, and she runs markets, and she asked if I wanted to run markets with her, and I said yes. So when I started doing that, I started seeing that there was things that other people were lost too, like they were doing
Mm.
markets and stuff, and so they were lost. So and so I thought, and I started thinking, well, this is like I was drawn to this, right? So I'm changing everything, and I wanted to keep the creative part of it. So I'm still what I'm offering is I'm still um, providing market products to
Yeah.
people that need it for their businesses, but I'm doing workshops for people that run markets, for vendors that run markets, and I'm going to help them set up their booths and learn how to do that because I did a lot of merchandising when I was
Right. So
a,
it sounds like that
a market manager.
accumulation of skills, the
Yes,
creativity, and then I love it when you can
I'm
actually,
focusing.
right. And you can also, see there's a gap where it's like, oh,
Mhm,
I think people need a little bit of
mhm,
help here.
mhm,
So I love that. I mean, I think that that's really resonating for myself, and I'm sure some of our listeners too, where, identifying kind of a problem in the market or an opportunity, maybe not even problem,
not a problem.
but it
Yeah.
is nice that you have those skills and it kind of checks all those boxes. It's creative, it's still in alignment, but now you really honed
Mhm,
in and niche down even further. So I love that. I think that that makes
mhm,
sense. And I'm sure in your intro, I had said, if you do these markets, this is a good one to listen to, because we know that there is support out there. So the way this guest series has been working is I want to make sure that we can tackle specific questions. I know you had sent some
mhm.
ahead of time. So where do you want to start with your questions that where I can support you?
Well, as I said, I'm transitioning, and so I'm changing the name. So my first question is, how can you combine an Instagram if you have more than one Instagram account and you're changing the name? Can you combine more than one account together? And if so, like how do you do that and not lose the friends that you have that are already following you?
Gotcha. So in terms of like merging, like having two accounts merge into one, I mean, basically you can only have, like, you could open up a second
Mm-hmm.
account, but really you'd have one account. And correct me if I'm hearing this right, because it sounds like the two offers that you have, one is on the education side, so supporting people
Mm-hmm.
who run markets to properly set up their booths. So there's that education and support through workshops and trainings down that side. And your second side is that you still offer the physical products that you can produce for people. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
It's like marketing products though, so
Right.
it's not like they can do t-shirts, but it's finding unique marketing products for their business
Right.
so that they stand out at markets and help
Right.
them succeed.
Gotcha. So, sorry to clarify that even further. Is this something that they would purchase from you so that they can sell it, or are these products where like it's like signage that they can use over and over again, or is it both?
No, it's just marketing product for them to use to
Okay.
stand out at markets, not for them to sell.
Okay.
Yeah.
That I wasn't quite sure, so that helps me a lot,
Yes.
especially with this question. Because if it was the latter, if you still had marketing,
Mm-hmm.
like promotional products that you were selling like at wholesale or
Mm-hmm.
bulk, that's a totally different audience, or
Mm-hmm.
they are kind of separate. So, okay, this is great. So we're still really, our ideal person that we're talking about is already a seller. They participate in markets. but they also need their own promotional items to market, to show, to set their booth up, to stay on brand, all of that. So you help with both. So you're kind of a
Right.
one-stop shop. So to me, when we talk about two accounts, I think it's one. And the account you
Correct.
have now, so currently you're FMTY Creations on Instagram, and that's what you want to change, right? With your new name.
Right. And then I
So
do have a personal one, but I'd like to merge them together so everybody's just following me under one.
gotcha. Okay. So first thing, so two things I want to share. If you have a personal one, instead of blending the both, I still think it's important to have a personal one. Like I still have a personal one
Okay.
as well. I don't usually cross promote. I also have one for this show. I don't actively post on it as much as my main business one. So there is some opportunity there. So on that front, what I would recommend is on your personal is to just be really proactive of like, hey, everybody, I would love your support over here. But what I will say
Okay.
with that as a little secondary, this just kind of pinged. If the
Yeah.
people on your personal account are not necessarily using your services and like they wouldn't, so your friends and the sisters and the like that, your neighbors, there is something to be said where it's like you probably wouldn't want them following your business account because they're not your audience. So if they see it, it might be like, oh, but if they're not going to engage on it, well then it's, I don't know, that personally is like there is something to be said that you want the people who are actually looking for that support to be on that page. But you can also still ask them to support you as well. Like there isn't anything wrong with that. But I would really
Yeah.
keep the business one very much like anytime you're posting, you're like, who am I speaking to? I'm speaking to the maker out there. I'm speaking to the one who's at the markets, who has their products, and they are there. They are setting up their booths. They're doing the grind. They're doing what you used to do as well when you were participating, because you can
Mhm.
speak to that. So
Mhm.
that's what I would do. And then the actual, like your at handle on that, you can
Mhm.
change that. That's not a problem. You can change your username handle. It won't affect your account. You'll have to make sure you can get one. But so then anyone searching FMTY, like it won't show up there anymore. It would show up as your new name. But you can flip that current Instagram account and change the name. So
Okay.
that's not an issue if you want to update that. Um, yeah, does that help answer just on
Yes,
that account? Okay.
it does. It does.
And then we're going to kind of go through, and I know you're in this transition, so
Mhm.
probably a lot of this hasn't been updated, but like I know currently, so we're kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but your bio there as well, like that's where like get really, really specific of the problem that people have and the solution you offer as part of your services. And I think it's great because you can still talk about both like kind of one-stop shop for the pop-up market seller or the handmade sellers.
Mhm.
You'll kind of really define who they are.
Mhm.
And in that bio where it's like addressing, everything from mapping out, planning, setup, design, because currently right now you have yourself as a graphic designer, but I think we really need to like stretch that out. So again, I know you're through this transition period, but like if you had one sentence to say, like if someone, I like to use the example because my son is young. So I've learned that with young children, like if he came up to me and said, Mommy, tell me what you do, it would be a lot different if I was speaking to an adult. They're like, hey, so what do you do? Oh,
Yeah,
blah, 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 blah. But when you
I
speak to
know.
like a seven, or I guess he's 8 now. Oh my gosh, he's growing up so fast. Now that he's, being a young kid, you know how we change our language when we speak to children? But that's something through this process I like to tell people to do. Write your bio as if you're speaking to an 8-year-old or a 7-year-old. Because when we do
Okay.
that, and you might rework it, but when you're kind of mapping it out, like just to open up your notes or write it down on paper, like what is it that if someone landed on my page, they know they're in the right spot? And I think a good practice is to write it out as if they were 8 years old, because we're very clear when it, like, if I just said to my son, hey, like, we're going to go here. I need you to get your brush your teeth and get your shoes on and get your coat. Okay. And meet me outside in 5. that's too much information for him. And then what do? We get frustrated. We're like, I asked you to do this, this, and this. And they're like, I, I, I couldn't remember. So through motherhood, I'm sure you have 3 kids, when we have to like slow down and, hey, I just need you to brush your teeth and then put your shoes on. Like being very, very clear, not, and then because, we get busy, we're not talking. So when you go to write your new bio with this new lens, we'll say, write it out and be very, very clear. But I think, and think about those keywords as well. Instagram is searchable. It's SEO optimized from hashtags to captions to bio to username, all of that. So getting really, really clear on what are those keywords. So I like the ones that pop out to me, and you'll know better than I because this is your industry, but like pop-up market, vendor, handmade, like those artisan, like words like that, I think however you can stretch as much as that in is going to really help kind of like pinpoint, because ultimately we want someone to land there and be like, oh, that's what I need. I need help. Like I have these shows coming up. My booth is outdated. I don't even know where to start. You're their gal. And so including all of that. Do you have any questions on that front? Sorry, you know me. I go on a ramble.
No, that's great. That's great. That
Okay.
was very helpful.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Because I think, yeah, I love this transition for you. I think that, especially markets are huge and you're solving such a great problem, because it's like, what's a good example? It's like, when you're good at, it's the same thing I'd say to all business owners, where it's like, you're great at what you do, but then we have to do the website, and then we have to do social media. And it's like, can I just get back to like what I actually do? And so you're solving that on the market, the vendor side, where they're like, I made these, I know I can sell them, but like, I'm not a designer. I don't know what signage I need. That's not my wheelhouse. So I love that you're solving that problem. So really speak to them, especially on the problem side. Like, you're great at what you do, but like, let's make this easy on you and have a great booth so you can sell more, get the visibility, this and that, rinse, repeat. I'm Cindy, and I'm going to help you get you there, from everything from signage to and all those other things that you provide, because they really do. Like when you first sent me your questions, I was really thinking, oh, are these 2 different things? But now that you've clarified, like this is all under one wheelhouse, and it makes sense.
It is. Yeah.
Because
that's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like that one-stop shop. So I do love that. Mm-hmm. And so I have your questions here too. And you had asked a question about choosing between a podcast or a blog. Can you explain more of like where that question comes from, or like what you're thinking?
Sure. So I'm kind of wavering between a podcast or a blog. I tend to get my ideas out better when I write, but I love listening to podcasts, like when I'm walking and whatnot. So I'm kind of wavering between doing one or the other. So I thought I'd ask you, because this is a perfect platform to do that.
Yeah.
So if someone was interested in starting, or if you had to choose between doing one or the other, what would you choose? If someone said you could only do one or the other, I thought I'd ask you that question, because I thought that would be an interesting answer. And then the second part of that question was, if someone was interested in starting one or the other, what are 1 to 2 steps you would suggest, like apps or whatnot, to help someone if they were kind of just at the beginning stages of a podcast or a blog?
Right. Okay. So I think you know what I'm going to say, because I
think so, but yes,
I love my podcast. So before I jump into that specifically, I think when it comes to podcasting, like there can be a show for anything. I will say, in order to like maximize a podcast, the biggest suggestion I can give, it's a bit of discipline and consistency. So ever since I launched this podcast, I have not missed a Wednesday. I committed to weekly Wednesdays, and I haven't missed one. And that consistency is really important, because as you, and podcast to me is, it's, what's the word I'm looking for? Like long form, like, or it's planting seeds. So I launched this at the end of January 2023. I committed. I'm like, I'm doing a year and then I'm going to reassess. So if it's like, oh, it doesn't seem to be working, or if I'm not growing and onboarding and people finding me and growing the podcast, I might have to reevaluate, either give it a rebrand, a refresh, or I have to look at it myself. Like, is this something that I want to do? So it's a
Mhm.
long game. That's the word I'm looking for. It's kind of a longer game, but I will say I love it. And specifically to you, like, this could be something where if it's like you just talk markets and like
Mhm.
everything about them, maybe you have guests on. Um, there really isn't any type of niche or industry that can't be chatted about. It could just be like, hey, like this is, and it doesn't even have to be specific to the services you offer. It could be a lot
Yeah.
of like good conversations with other people who participate in markets. Like, hey, what would be, you can talk to experts, you can talk to real people, you can talk about makers. Maybe it's how to get into Etsy. Like, these are all the things that if someone's maybe participating in markets, maybe they're probably also selling on Etsy. And you can, like, I
Mm.
love this to bring on guests or just conversations where it's like, it's just valuable information. And there's like a
Mhm.
niche to it. Like,
Yeah.
I talk a lot of marketing, I talk a lot of
Oh yeah.
visual marketing and social media, email. So I'm kind of all over the place there. But like, I like to speak to the new or newly business owner. So either they're just got out of like working full time and starting something, side hustle, whatever it is, where it's like, I like to break down, like, here are just some things where you could get started. So podcasting does offer a really great opportunity to extend your reach. Now, I am always going to keep bringing this back to you. Your services with all of these new, is this something you can do virtual, or is this in person, or both?
Well, I have 3 workbooks that are pretty much full already of ideas, and
Okay.
I'm going to do in-person workshops, and
Yeah.
I'm going to do workshops that are available online, and I already have templates that are going to be available free.
Right.
And I have so much stuff. Like, I've spent pretty much the whole summer already just accumulating product ideas and doing my
Gotcha.
workshop. Like, so I have so much stuff already ready to go. And I've already started a newsletter. And so there's going to
Perfect.
be so much stuff offered to my customers and stuff. And I have an idea of going to markets in person and
Okay.
doing, offering like market audits. So so there's just as I said, I can hardly sleep. Like, once I
Um,
started this idea, you know me.
oh yeah. And I have my notes that right beside my bed half the
Yeah,
time. I'm like, oh, I'll wake up at three
exactly.
o'clock in the morning and it's like, I got to get this out.
Exactly. My
So
husband rolls over and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Just another
I have
idea."
an idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
So back to like the podcasting could be a great opportunity. Now, with all of this that I'm gonna go on a little tangent and share, but before I
Yeah.
do, I will say one thing at a time, because I know, and I've been there where it's like
Yes.
when we try to do it all with all these ideas. So just keep that in mind. But what's
Yes.
great, and I asked that question about whether it was in person or if you have, digital offerings, because that's where I have found podcasting is great. Like, I just had someone from Hawaii join my membership. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so cool. Cause like they probably found me on the podcast because I have a bigger reach and I enjoy that
Yes.
opportunity because I have digital offerings. So
Mhm.
and that's for anybody listening, like if you have something where you're not bound by location and you have digital offerings, online courses, memberships, one-on-one services, all digitally, like, podcasting is a great way to extend that reach. So when we talk about podcasting and blogs, what I love is basically my podcast. I consider this my blog because I'm about efficiencies. I'm like, I don't want to waste time. I
Mhm.
like my nice walks in the morning and I like taking my weekends off.
Yes.
No, time is so precious. So when it comes to efficiencies, for me personally, this podcast on my website, I use Squarespace and you can add a blog. But my blog, like that portion that I can customize, is actually the podcast. And so when I record my podcast, all my show notes are my blog and that gets posted on my website. Why is that good? It's great for SEO. So if someone's searching something specific, they can come to my website. They can tune into the podcast on my website. So I treat the podcast like it is a blog. And that's strategic because it's really nice to bump up your website with keywords and like SEO enriched keywords for your ideal audience. I also use ChatGPT. That's a great resource in terms of like AI that has helped me. So like after this, usually after I record an episode, I have a program that I use. It can pull my full transcript. I can pop that into ChatGPT and say, summarize this and give me some show notes. And then I can go in, it saves me time, but it's my words that it's pulling from. And then I can kind of tweak and like update, and I can even tell ChatGPT to include my keywords, all of that. So then when it sits on my website, I use Buzzsprout to host this podcast. And so that's the channel that allows it to go on Spotify and at Apple. So that's how it works. Okay. You have a host platform. So I use Buzzsprout. I've always loved it. But that's the thing. I could just have it there and then that's it. But instead I use the blog portion on my website that's all of my episodes. Because if someone wants to read through it, great. Or I also include it as a YouTube as well as audio so that there's all that accessibility there. But so that's where it kind of kills two birds with one stone. So let's say if podcasting was like, and this might be for anybody listening, if they're like, there's absolutely no way I'm doing a podcast. The benefits of blogs, people think blogs are like, well, this is how you make this cherry pie. And I freshly picked the berries from this farmer's. Like we kind of go to like that old thinking of blogs, but the value in blogs is looking at it from an SEO standpoint, where if you can really keyword enrich your website and you're still offering value, that's a great way to drive traffic to your website, which of course is where we want everybody to go. Social media is great. We'll grow your following, whatever. But where do we want people to land? It's like, I always do this. It's your house. Your website is your home. Get them over there, serve them up some nice appetizers, make them feel good, and have them leave feeling like, oh, I got everything I needed. This was wonderful. What a wonderful visit. So any direction and traffic we can send there. And so you can do that through a blog. You can do that through podcasting. You can do that through YouTube. I would say find one. Yeah. Sorry, that was a total tangent.
No, I really learned a lot there.
Okay.
Speaking of which, I'm doing the VIP. I got the VIP membership for the chat.
For the AI summit. Yes. If you're whatever date this is airing, if you have any questions about the AI summit, I don't know if it's still going to be available. It's running live right now, but send me a DM and if there's any collateral I can give.
I'm excited. I'm doing it after this.
Oh, good. So, yes. And then you had one more question.
Yes.
So, you go for it.
When providing a service-based and a product-based business combo, which is what my business is now, what top 2 systems would you suggest to help and why? So like whether it's like an app and like, do you have any kind of like special?
So some of the systems
combo.
So for services, I'll probably touch base on them separate. Like I know for me, for services, and for my services that I offer, like when I do one-on-one, I like using something like Calendly for my booking. So I can just plug that in. I put in my own availability. And if someone's like, I'd like to book a one-on-one, I can send them my Calendly and then they can go ahead and choose their time and their date. And then it just populates. So that's what you did when we booked this. I sent you the Calendly calendar. You choose your time. It automatically generated this Zoom link. So again, efficiencies, right? Where I'm like, I know what my schedule is. Here's what I have available. You choose a time. And then it shows up in my inbox. Oh, Cindy has booked this time. It's already sent us both our Zoom. And I don't pay for Calendly right now. It's probably one of the next investments I will make in terms of tools, because as I'm doing more and more one-on-ones, I'm like, oh, I think I might need to streamline this a little bit more, where then it can also take you to like a checkout system, where if I'm doing a paid one-on-one, it's like, oh, okay, it's going to automatically take you here. So you pay for your thing, you get your link, we're on the calendar, and this is all happening while we're doing our other stuff, right? So I do like Calendly for the service base. Also, because you've touched on some of your offerings that you're going to have. So like any digital offerings. I'm working
Mm-hmm.
on a new small course right now that I'm going to be offering, but I also have my membership. So one of my favorite tools that I've used, and this was what will host any programs, video. I do like live videos and people access them. I use Thrivecart. It's actually Thrivecart Learn Plus. So Thrivecart is a checkout system. And so it's great because I don't sell physical products. So what I like about Thrivecart, especially being like we're in Canada, so it's a little bit different if you're like in the States where our CRA tax laws are different. So in terms of capturing the right stuff to do my taxes, Thrivecart gives me two options to have people's addresses. This is all just like the boring like blah, tax stuff.
Yeah.
But I do so I do like Thrivecart. So it's a checkout system. But what they introduced about probably 18 months ago was Thrivecart Learn and Thrivecart Learn Plus. And that is the platform where I actually host my courses. I host my membership through there. And so it's a whole like member hub. I treat it like a member hub because that's my membership runs there. But any courses that I'll sell in the future or anything digital, it all goes through Thrivecart. All my checkout systems, I host everything under one spot. People can pay with PayPal or Stripe, but it's pretty seamless. And so I can add in new lessons. So every month, like my members, they get templates every month. They get a bonus training. So it hosts my, like I put everything up in there. They all have their own unique login. They can come back to it. So Thrivecart has been a great tool in terms of every time I could create 100 different courses and host them all in Thrivecart. Like it just,
Wow.
it gives me that opportunity like, oh, I'm going to do this. Or I want to have like, I don't know if I wanted to run a 6-week program. It's like, well, I'm just going to run it through here and like upload everything and it goes to the checkout system. I have one login. I can track everything. And I will say with Thrivecart, what I enjoy is it's a one-time fee. So I'll put all these in the show notes too. Anything that any technologies that I'm mentioning for
Okay.
anyone listening, I will drop them into the show notes if you want to check it out. But yeah, Thrivecart's been great. And yeah, it's a lifetime fee. So I paid for it once. So a lot of like I know Kajabi, I've used Kajabi before. Kajabi was an annual fee and it started to really like Kajabi was okay. I wasn't thrilled. But then it sucks when you're like hosting everything and you want to make sure people have access to it. And then to renew, it's like, oh man, again. So I do like Thrivecart. I'm like, I'm going to pay this one-time investment and I have it forever. So those are two systems or tools that I use that I really enjoy.
Those are great. Those are actually two that I have not heard of. So those I'm going to look into. Thank you.
I'm glad you bring this up because I was also just working on a new opt-in, a free guide, and I'm like, oh, I think I'm going to put together like a list of my favorite systems and tools that I use because I do in like I get this asked a lot, and so yeah, this is validating for me right now. So I'm learning something too because I think that's important. Where it's like what tools and like what are helpful, and
Yeah.
some of these have been super super helpful and worth the investment. So yeah,
That's good. No, those are good because this is where I'm at right now is choosing what tools I'm going to use because those are important. They're big
yeah,
investments. You
yeah.
know, all these little investments add up, and it is, you know,
If
it's
there's one
big.
thing, I'm raising my hand. If you want to meet one of the most frugal people, it's me. I am like,
Oh,
I am so, if I can do it cheaper, or like, I'm like one of those
yes.
resourceful people. And I get it. I know when people say like, when you pay, you pay attention and like invest in like I am all about investing my business, but I'm like at sometimes it's like, well, I just can't swing that right now. So what are ways and things that we can do to get started? Because I do believe getting started. But also being mindful. I would never tell somebody, oh, just take out a line of credit. Like that's bullshit advice. And I'm tired of hearing people say like, it's okay to take out a loan or this. I'm like, not everybody can do that. And it's not usually
No.
the wisest. But, if you can look at before investing, like what are this is a big one for anyone listening. What are the like must haves or like would be nice to have? And there's going to be stages. When I first started selling a course, I did not spend a dime. I was like, I can't invest in this right now. Like it was, yeah, it was scary. But over time started making little investments here and there. I launched my first online course. I ran the whole thing on Facebook. Now, in hindsight, if Facebook had gone down during that time I was running it, I ran it for 5 weeks. It was my first course. I think this was 2019. 2019. Yeah, it was 2019, February 2019. And I ran it on Facebook, and I sold 10 spots, which I was so excited. It was like the best thing ever because it was so validating. But I ran it on Facebook, and every week I would drop a video lesson into Facebook. It was a private Facebook group. So it was scrappy, but it worked. The delivery, people got their stuff. But yeah, in hindsight, because it happens, if Facebook had gone down, I would have been like, oh shoot, I didn't deliver and people paid me. And even then it was like, oh, just send your e-transfer. There are ways to be scrappy and hungry. And then over time, it's also a good way to validate it as well. So I did find that super helpful. And then over time it was, refine. But I'll still say, making that investment with something like Thrivecart, it's like, now I'm glad that I did, because I have something that is recurring revenue every month. But it didn't start off that way. We don't need all the bells and whistles. It's like, for most of us, getting your first car, you're not going to get that dream car at 16 with the bow on top. I don't know if that happened to you. I'm really happy for you. That was definitely not how it happened for
Not
me.
me.
Right? So we all, that ding-a-ling on that
Yeah.
bus. I got that fresh bus pass,
Oh
whatever,
yeah.
right? We had
Yeah.
to get to where we were going somehow. So it's the same
Yeah.
thing when I like to look at it that way with the tools. We don't have to jump out with all the bells and whistles, because things change as well. So just really looking at the priorities would
Mhm.
be something I would suggest to get started. Like I said, even Calendly, I don't pay for it right now. I just keep I close, you can only host one calendar. I just keep updating it right now because I'm like, do I need to pay for it right now? I don't really. When I get to that point, that's a good sign. That means I'm really, really too busy to even just go ahead and adjust my calendar a bit. So it's all good things, and all good things come in time.
Yes. That's a great lesson. That's a great lesson. Even yeah. It's a great lesson to put out there, because all those things saying, oh, save 10% or save 12% if you pay for the annual fee right now, it's tempting, but don't do it, because once you're locked in for that year, you may realize 3 to 4 months in that you don't need that, or you're not using it, but
Right,
you've already paid that investment. I did that a couple times thinking, oh,
right,
I'm going to save money, but then I wasn't using that app anymore.
right.
And so that's when all these little tricks that you learn along the way of being self-employed, and having a small business,
Absolutely.
don't don't jump all in, pay the 1 month and see if you're going to use it, because
Yeah,
you will save yourself that money in the long run.
yeah. And that's just it. It's just
Mm-hmm.
really discerning what is the would be nice to have, or I
Yeah.
must have. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, otherwise, I'm just trying to think of other tools. I use HoneyBook. HoneyBook is my management for my client management. So host
Heard
all
of
my
that one.
my
Yeah.
contracts. Yeah. So people, if they're coming in the book, send them the contract, everything flows through there. I can track my
Mm-hmm.
time through there, my expenses. I do like HoneyBook. Again, that was when I jumped on that. I'm like, this is an investment, but this is a tool to be able to track and manage that client work has been super helpful. It sends out all my invoices. I don't have to manually hi, you owe me
Yes.
money. It's all automated. I'm like, this is great.
Do you prefer HoneyBook over the Square invoices?
I've never used Square because,
Oh, okay.
and I think maybe I know Square is usually, is it more for product? To be honest, I'm not too familiar, but HoneyBook was just one that I had looked into, and
Oh,
think
okay.
I had done a trial. I'm trying to think, or they had I actually have a promo code for HoneyBook. I'll also put that in the show notes. It's an
Okay.
affiliate link, full disclosure. But someone had shared it with me, and I think I got my first 6 months for half off. And then I pay
Oh,
annually,
wow.
but I could have canceled, but I was like, no, I like this service, and it
Yeah.
saved me. But it was a nice way to try it for a lot cheaper. Maybe it was something I gotta look. I'll put it in the show notes if anyone's interested in
Yeah.
HoneyBook to try
Okay.
it out. You can get a good deal on that. But that one again is great for more. I find it's more geared towards like one-on-one work. So when clients book me, like by managing their social media or they're doing a contract term with me, like that's what I use that for. Otherwise, like my membership or digital products, those all go through Thrivecart. So it's like I have two checkout systems technically.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That's good to know. Would you like to know the new business name?
I would share it here. Should we get like I should put a little drum roll going on this when I
You
put
should.
this
This
all
is like
together?
the first public announcement of it.
Please go for it.
Okay, so it's going from FMTY to Fortitude Attitude.
Fortitude attitude. I love it. I love
Yes,
it.
it is.
So are we going to change your Instagram handle to Fortitude Attitude?
We are.
Good, good.
Yes, we are.
I asked that
Yeah, I
because
haven't done it.
I want to make sure, especially anybody listening, if you do participate in markets and you're looking for resources, make sure to follow Fortitude Attitude. Or for right now, if you haven't changed it yet, right now you're FMTY Creations.
Yes.
Or you can send me a link, or sorry, send me a DM, and I'll make sure you get connected to Cindy. Do you have any other follow-up questions? I really like where this went. This was really fun. I know this was really unique because you're going through the transition with the new business, but I'm super excited for you. This is really awesome.
Thank you. Yes, it is exciting. Yesterday was a little bit of a sad, not, yeah, it was sad because it was the end of an era. If you saw my office right now, it looks like a bomb went off, but that's okay. I'm actually selling all of my FMTY product and it went like hotcakes. So like the office looks like bare bones right now because luckily we put it like online and we got tons of people coming for it, which I'm really happy for because it makes my heart happy because it's going to people that are going to use it. So like all my vinyl and sawgrass printer and everything. So but it's just so bare. So like I kind of walked in here and I was like,
okay, can I
you know,
I'm gonna leave you with this. This is perfect. Think of it, consider just looking at the bareness, the emptiness.
yes.
Look at how much space you've just cleared to welcome in
Yes.
this next chapter.
Yes.
That's exciting.
It is exciting. It was like I just took a second and I just took it all in and I was like, I took a deep breath and I was like, okay, I'm going to give myself 10 seconds just to be sad about letting that go. And then I just let in the excitement of, you know, I have all this space now and of all the stuff that's coming and the good stuff that's coming. I'm not getting new stuff because I don't need stuff. But
the discernment between the wants and the needs. It's the whole theme of this podcast today.
Yes, it is. It is. And I'm just so excited because I've been waiting to like change the name on Instagram and start posting all the new posts, which will be starting today. So
amazing.
I'm excited. Yes.
Well, thank you so much for sharing I think this is important that, not everything is done or ready. Like things take time, transition takes time, flipping. I've been there too. Like I have, oh my gosh, it's like the word pivot is just like constant in my life. But sometimes we have to go through these stages of our business where it can look totally different a year from now. But I think that's really important to kind of end with is, I'm sure anyone listening, if you run a small business, and that's typically most of my listeners, that the way you started it probably looks a lot different than where we are today. Yeah. I know that's the case for myself. Like it's completely different. And you know what? It's still changing and still evolving. And that's what's kind of fun. If you were the kid who constantly rearranged their bedroom because you wanted it to feel fresh, like we are destined for entrepreneurship because we just want to just try it all, right? And I love that.
And it's okay. It's like embrace the change. Like don't be scared of it. Like it will feel a bit scary, but that's okay. Like really lean into that change. That's what I learned. I used to like push it away and be like, oh my gosh, but now I lean into it and I'm like, no, this is okay.
And I think there's always that mindset too. I know, and I'm speaking completely personally, where I thought, but people know me for this. They don't know me for that. And it's like, But you know what? We think that everybody's thinking about us and what we do. They're not. They're
They're not.
Right?
No.
I remember I used to say nobody's looking at your Instagram or your website more than you are critiquing it, right? So we have to
That's so
remember
true.
that no one's got a magnifying glass on our radar and watching everything we're doing. We feel like it's that way. It's not. And so
Yes.
if that's anything that can lend a little bit of like giving ourselves grace and embrace every change and pivot and like, yeah, you see that, I don't do that anymore, I'm going through it,
Yeah.
that it's okay. And when we have a wonderful support network, I mean, that definitely helps as well. My husband's like, what are you up to now? I'm like, this. He's like, cool.
Yeah.
I'm like, thanks.
Yeah. It does make a big difference, doesn't it?
It
He's like, okay,
does.
let's do this.
All right, rock and roll.
Yeah.
Well, Cindy,
Yeah,
thank
thank
you
goodness
so.
for our husbands.
Oh, 100. Oh yeah, no, I would be
Yeah.
lost without my Michael. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for coming on and letting me, have some of my eyes and on your stuff. I'm excited to see where this takes you. I'm going to put all your details in the show notes. If anybody would like to get connected with Cindy, I recommend you do, because there's obviously a lot of good things coming your way. So I'm super excited for you, and thanks for having this time with me.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This was amazing. It was so nice spending time with you today.
I love it. It's nice to, I mean, I love the podcast and I do a lot of solo episodes, but I really do enjoy, and that's where I kind of intro the show, like learning through conversation. And I hope if someone's listening and they're like, oh my gosh, this helped me, please let me know. I'd like to hear the feedback. I want to know if this is actually helping. Because I know I like to learn that way too. And you can hear two people kind of, even if they're not in the industry or the same industry, where you can kind of work through it through conversation. So that was my goal for doing this series, that you get support, but hopefully maybe that lends to someone else. So I appreciate you sharing. I'm excited for you, and rock on, like enjoy it and enjoy the in-between moment, right? We also have to carve out those,
Yes.
like taking that little before we jump all in.
Oh, yes. Enjoy the journey.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Cindy.
Okay, thanks.
I'm still smiling. I really enjoyed this style of an episode. I know a lot of my shows are solo, but I would be curious to hear your feedback if you're enjoying this style of episode. You can do so by leaving a review with Apple Podcasts for Creative Marketing Show, or you can send me a DM, especially if you don't listen on Apple. Send me a DM on Instagram at angela.s.doyon. I would love to hear what you think of this style, or if you have any questions or podcast ideas for an upcoming show. I want to make sure that I'm serving you and that you're getting the support that you need each and every week. So your feedback is very valuable and I completely welcome it in. Otherwise, I will be back next week with our third installment of the guest special series. Of course, every Wednesday, new episodes drop. I'm so grateful for you and for your ears, and I hope you have a great rest of your week.